What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We actually have quite a lot that we want to go over with you. We have some more climatological data that we want to talk about. We're going to be talking about some La Nina stuff as well as what's going on in the ENSO region at the request of some viewers that have been kind of commenting about it. We're also going to be talking about this area of interest, and we're going to be talking about some more potential development that may be happening down the road. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into all of it right here. So we'll go ahead and get started with this area of interest in the Gulf right here. Personally, it doesn't really have that much of a shot of development. The NHC is only giving it a 10% probability at this current point in time. However, because this does pose a potential flash flooding threat for Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas, I still do want to go ahead and talk about this because this is moving through. It's producing a lot of convection, and we're going to want to pay very close attention to this. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into what the NHC is going with this. A broad area of low pressure over the north central Gulf is currently producing an area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Over the next day or so, the system is forecast to move generally westward across the northern Gulf, where some slow development is possible. By this weekend, the system is likely to move inland, ending its chances for development. Regardless of tropical cyclone formation, locally heavy rainfall is possible for portions of the northern Gulf Coast throughout this weekend. They're only giving it a 10% probability of development. This system is likely not going to get on the ground anyway. It's too close to land. There's a little bit too much shear. Dry air is not really a big issue, but it's mainly the shear that's kind of inhibiting it, as well as its close proximity to land over here. And this is also reflected on satellite imagery as well. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this in the Gulf region for you right here. So here's what we got for you. So basically, you have a lot of convection that's blowing up, but the problem is it's disorganized, and the center of the low pressure is too close to the surface right here. Well, not too close to the surface, too close to land for really anything significant to really take place. The big issue I'm noticing with this too is the wind shear, and you can kind of notice it on satellite. You can especially notice it on water vapor imagery as well, especially this water vapor. You're noticing at least some shear trying to impact it, particularly on the northern side of it as well. Like I said, dry air is not a problem. It's wind shear, but still, parts of Louisiana could see some flash flooding. New Orleans, you're not out of the clear just yet. You could see some rain for this as well. Texas, you could definitely see some flash flooding. If you're in the Houston area, you're going to want to pay attention to it, especially if you're in those areas around the bayous. That's something to keep in mind. So that's kind of our main threat that we have right now immediately in the tropics. But as time continues to go on and as the conditions continue to get better and better for much of late July and August, there are some things that we need to go over, that we need to start talking to you about on quite a bit of a few scales. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into some of the data that we're noticing. First things first right here, we're going to the ENSO sea surface temperatures anomalies in the ENSO region, which is pretty much in the eastern Pacific off the coast of South America, off the coast of Ecuador and Peru, those areas right there. The reason we look at this, for those of you who do not know, it's been a while since we've talked about this, is essentially an El Nino favorable environment. It means typically less development unless it's 2023 when the SSTs in the Atlantic just absolutely destroyed and wiped out whatever the El Nino was and pretty much just canceled out all of that, and that's why we got 20 named storms during that year, whereas a La Nina year typically produces more a favorable development. You have a better environment for tropical development, and it weakens the trade winds more and allows for shear to weaken and allows for more warming to take place sometimes as well, and that allows for more development on average. But as we continue to look at this right here, this is what we have for regions 3 and 4. We're going to go ahead and open this in a new tab and kind of give you a general idea. Same with regions 1 and 2, and we're going to go ahead and dissect both of those starting right now. So, starting with regions 3 and 4, as you can see, over the last couple of weeks especially, the kind of the sea surface temperatures in that region, which kind of, if we go back here, kind of encompasses these areas right here. If we go ahead and show you this, it encompasses this region right here, over here, like west of the Galapagos Islands into parts of the east, into the Central Pacific right here, regions 3 and 4. what we're noticing with this is we are seeing a pretty big collapse in the SSTs right here. We're noticing a pretty big collapse in the anomalies because for quite some time they were kind of going oscillating up and down a little bit, but they were gradually increasing at this current point. But then starting around July 10th, the SSTs just started collapsing en masse across a lot of this region right here. And now we're down to about negative 0.57 degrees Celsius below average. And I can go ahead and show you this right here, move my camera over to show you this as well. This is where we're at right here with the average. I do apologize for that. But basically what this means right here is in order for an El Nino to take place, you need a positive anomaly or plus 0.5 degrees right there, or 0.5 half a degree Celsius above average. For a La Nina to take place, you need a negative return. You need a negative 0.5 degrees Celsius average right there, and we are below at that threshold right here. At least in regions 3 and 4, we are in that La Nina phase right there. However, regions 1 and 2 is a bit different. Regions 1 and 2, for a while were the opposite. They were above average for quite some time right here. Then they started fluctuating. They just dropped, then surged, then dropped, and then fluctuate. But we've seen fluctuations generally in regions 1 and 2. But now what we're noticing right here is we're noticing another drop in the SSTs right here. We're down to about negative 0.09 degrees Celsius, which is almost negative 0.1. And what that is telling me at this current point is, first of all, in terms of regions 1 and 2, I don't think this kind of drop is going to hold. I think we're going to start seeing negative returns because we're noticing definitely a trend on the downward phase right here. I think we're going to see a negative return from this as well, but I don't think we're going to get to the negative 0.5 degrees Celsius in order to trigger a La Nina. What kind of environment we're seeing right here, looking at these two regions, is what is known as a negative neutral phase. A negative neutral phase is pretty much kind of like that. A neutral phase is pretty much if the water temperatures in both these regions are above or below 0.5 degrees average. Pretty much it's in that in that region right here. If it's below below the positive anomaly and above the negative anomaly, pretty much in that threshold right there. What we're noticing with this pattern, we've noticed this for a while, is where we're at right now is a negative neutral phase, which basically means that the entire ENSO region is colder than average, but it's not below 0.5 degrees Celsius below average, which was what would trigger a La Nina situation. I don't think we're going to see a La Nina at this current point in time unless something unexpected happens, and neither does the climate models either. So this was published on July 18th right here. So basically, they're forecast to be blunt, plain, and simple. We're in a neutral phase. It's going to remain a neutral phase, although it's going to be more negative neutral and somewhat La Nina favored compared to what we saw previously. But ultimately, by the time we get to November, December, January, it's going to stay negative neutral according to these runs, and it's not going to really change that much before hurricane season. I don't think we're going to see a pretty big La Nina during the season anytime soon at this current point. We'll pay attention to it for sure, but right now negative neutral. We're in a negative neutral phase. Now you've probably heard me talk for the last 5 minutes. You're going, "Oh, Patrick, man, what are you talking about? What does this have to do with hurricane season?" A negative neutral phase is generally what you would want for the best tropical development, not in terms of its numbers, but also in terms of its power. And ultimately, this is the kind of pattern, because if the water temperatures in the La Nina are too weak, and like they drop too much, like they become insanely cold, and it's a very strong La Nina, then you're not going to have as much trade winds, and you need some shear for systems to develop. You need some tilt, but not a lot of it. And those weaker trade winds do not kind of help with that, and it kind of exacerbates the issue on the opposite side, and you're going to have too much weak shear for tropical development to happen, whereas on the other side, if the water temperature is too strong, too much shear, too much trade winds, and that's going to kind of tear a lot of the tropical waves apart. A negative neutral phase is kind of the best of both worlds. You have decent enough. You have shear that's weaker than average, but not weak enough to completely flop tropical development. And it's in a better environment, in a better position to kind of allow for development to happen in the future. Shifting over to what we're having with the Climate Prediction Center as well, you do have that possibility of development happening next week off the coast of the Atlantic right here, off the coast in the Gulf right here, so you're going to want to pay attention to that as well. Then you're not seeing as much for August 6th through August 12th, but we will pay attention to that for you as well. We're also paying attention to a lot of other conditions as well. I'm not going to get into those as much because I want to save some time to get to the ensembles and get to the models and kind of dissect what's going on with that. Actually, let's go ahead and dissect some of the ensembles and the models now, and then we'll get to the conditions. So this is what we have going on for you right here for the European right here. So basically, to quickly sum it up for you guys, over the last couple of days, we've noticed a somewhat consistent trend in the main development region where we're noticing a lot of ensembles starting to pop up. You're starting to notice more tropical development potential. Pretty much, I would say, starting about 6 days out at this current point. So this isn't really like short term. This is more of a long term type of situation. And we can go ahead and show you this right here. This is 6 days out that I have pulled up for you right here in the MDR right here, where you're starting to have a tropical wave. You have a lot of these ensembles that are starting to pick it up very quickly right here. That's currently southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. Then as we go out another 24 hours, you're starting to notice these ensembles starting to kind of get more consolidated, more concentrated and all of that. And by the time we get to about 8 days out, which is 192 hours out, you're noticing a bit more of a consistent trend with this right here. You're noticing more ensembles, at least more ensembles with power on it. It's not like what we saw yesterday, and I'll go ahead and show you that as well. But basically what we have by the time we're about 10 days out, and we also noticed this as well at the 15-day forecast that Charlie sent me yesterday. I haven't showed it to you guys, though, mainly because of just it's 15 days out, and by the time we get to that, it's a little iffy with it. But by and large, what we have with this right here is we're noticing more ensembles with power, more ensembles with potential right here. And if these do hold and we see another area of interest potentially, because even the GFS has started to pick up on it a little bit slowly as well. But ultimately, if that were the case, then you're going to have to watch if you're in the Lesser Antilles. The Lesser Antilles is going to need to watch. If you're in Puerto Rico, you're going to want to watch this. Same thing with the Dominican Republic. And I know the extremely long-range runs that go out 15 days out by the European that were sent to me had this system kind of moving and making that turn towards the north right here. I can go ahead and pull this up for you guys right here. This is what we had yesterday, where we had these ensembles kind of picking up on something. We had a few very powerful scenarios where it started to move into the Lesser Antilles and then towards Puerto Rico. Then it made that turn as it approached the Bahamas, and then kind of started to linger towards the mid-Atlantic over here. Now, granted, this is 15 days out. This is highly unreliable at this current point, but ultimately, that's the kind of situation that we're dealing with right here, and we're going to want to pay attention to this as well. Also, I want to pull up the 12Z from yesterday just to kind of show you this as well. 12Z from yesterday showed a similar situation, although there wasn't as much power to with these ensembles. They still definitely were there, and we're looking at how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of the 30 ensembles that the European's looking at right here, 11 if you count this one right here. And some of these ensembles do have 1,005, 1,003, some power to that as well, albeit we've seen that definitely increase in regards to this right here. We're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ensembles once again, but they're more powerful, so you're going to want to pay attention to that as well, looking at the wind speeds and all of that as well. Now, granted, there are some flaws with this, of course, and to kind of extrapolate a little bit further, we can show you the GFS as well. GFS does have a bit of a signal. This is the 0Z right here. The 12Z is coming out at this current point. Let's go ahead and go back to about 9 days out to see this. The GFS not as strong as a signal compared to what I've been seeing with other ones. Like, there's like a couple of signals with this right here. But then looking at the 12Z, let's go ahead and go to about 6.5 days out to kind of show you this. Okay, the 12Z is rendering in right now, and the 12Z is definitely showing a lot more of these ensembles starting to pull up right here along this region of tropical development potentially right here, and so you're going to want to pay attention to that over there. So just kind of looking at this extrapolation with this right here, we do have ensemble support, but I have looked at the operational runs, and with the exception of the European kind of flickering with the low, we're not seeing as much operational support. This is going to be, for those of you who are wondering right here, and you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, Patrick, why are you hyping this up if this is just ensembles, not operational? Typically, how models work is the ensembles pick it up first, and then the operational starts to catch up in it once the average of the ensembles starts to get blended in for the operational run. So the ensembles are always the first to tag it and the first to look at this. And then as time goes on, as it gets more consistent, as we potentially see more power with ensemble structures, then we're going to start seeing the operational start to pick up on it. The operational pretty much in a way has to play a game of catch up to the ensembles. That's typically how that works. And what we will typically see is starting at about, if we continue to see a consistent signal, starting in about 2 to 3 days, you're going to have the operational start to pick up on it. You're going to start seeing the operational going, okay, now we're looking at potential tropical cyclone right here, and then you're going to start seeing more closed isobars on the operational runs. I can go ahead and show you this as an example of this right now. So starting with the European, we'll go ahead and move back to this right here, and we'll go ahead and go back out to about 144 hours out to start with this. So you start to notice you have a low right here that's developing off the ITCZ and the main development region. It's kind of flickering up and down right here. You do definitely see the energy and the convection right here, but it's not really showing that much over than an open wave at this current point. But if you look at the ensembles, once again, with this, it's kind of telling a different story for you right here. You're noticing how the ensembles are a lot better, a lot more kind of concentrated. You have a lot more of these scenarios right here. This is going to be a game of catch up, and I want to make that clear just to kind of move forward with this. And also, I do want to emphasize that the conditions that this is going to be in as well are actually going to be relatively favorable compared to what we see in early August. They're not going to be the most favorable. There's still going to be some dry air that may be happening to the north, but that dry air is decreasing to a point where that potentially could get mixed out. So we'll go ahead and show you that first. So here's what we have right here. So basically, this is where we're starting right here. This is the southwest Cabo Verde Islands right here. As you look to the north, there's a lot less dry air that's kind of hindering it right here. It's mainly to the northwest right here. But this dry air over here that's looking at with the relative humidity is like 30 to 40%. At this current point, that can easily get mixed out by some outflow, by some more convection in the region. That can be manageable. And you're also noticing the dry air is decreasing to the northwestern side as well as time goes on. And what you're noticing with this right here is you're noticing a lot less of a drier pattern, and the precipitable water anomalies also reflect on this quite well, actually. Yes, there is some dry air to the west of the system, but at this current point, at this current rate, a lot of the dry air that's kind of being driven into the Atlantic by the Sahara dust can be mixed out. It's not like before where we were seeing a lot of insane amounts of dry air where anything that just crosses into it will just be dead. No, what we're seeing now with this is basically you're seeing dry air that's not as dry, like it's more moist, and the dry air that's there can get mixed out a lot easier compared to what we were seeing maybe even a month ago. So that's kind of also what I'm paying attention to as well. So that's something to pay attention to. Now, dry air could be a bit of a problem later on down the road. We'll have to pay attention to it. It just depends on how the system, when it starts to kind of get tagged and starts to get organized. If it does happen off the MDR and the ITCZ, it depends on how much it fights and how strong the outflow is. But also, though, I do want to go ahead and show you the wind shear with this as well. You're looking at relatively weak wind shear with the exception of the southeast, but even then that's up to like 25 knots. So still, you have weak wind shear surrounding this wave right here that you're going to want to pay attention to, and that's something that we'll have to keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel, because at this current point, we're seeing the ensembles get consistent with it. Before, it was kind of wonky all over the place. Now they're showing a more consistent signal with both the European and GFS ensembles, and that's something to pay attention to, because if we're starting to see more consistent data, that is better than huge upswings and then downswings, because if you see see fluctuations like that, that's usually a bad sign for tropical development. But if you're seeing more consistent stuff, you're going to want to pay attention. But with that being said, we're closing the video out right here. If you want to help out, hang out, or ask us some questions, join the Storms United Discord server. Link to that is in the end screen. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.